Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Common Sense Crypto channel. As with you always, this is Rich doing another video today. So I hope you're all having a wonderful day today, wherever you are in this great world. We're going to talk about the World Economic Forum in this video and blockchain. I'll mention Ripple and how it has to deal with climate change and carbon credits of the future. So let's take a look. World Economic Forum showcased technology that would allow them to read your thoughts. Imagine, if you will, a world where outside forces can now read your deepest thoughts and have total control over your livelihood. The World Economic Forum is fantasizing over new technology that could turn this Twilight Zone nightmare into a reality. Breitbart reported Friday that during the World Economic Forum gathering in Davos, Switzerland last month, an attendee showed an anonymous presentation displaying a world in which allow employers at major companies to spy on their workers' brain activity. They would have the power to fire their workers and turn them into the government authorities for simply thinking the wrong way. So just because you put something, you think about something, doesn't mean that you're going to act upon it or do it. You know, a lot of people probably go to work and say to themselves, man, I just can't wait to go home. Well, in the future, your boss would come down and say, I see what you were just thinking. Now you could go home since you don't want to be here. This is not good technology. You know how many people are going to suffer just from having thoughts in their head? I wrote about brain transparency and World Economic Forum's battle for your brain. This is the future that has already arrived. It's based on technology that is already used. Artificial intelligence has enabled advances in decoding brain activity that were never thought possible before. You heard a lot about AI over the last few years. Here at Davos, it's been the talk of the hour. But I want to talk about it in a different way, which is the ability to decode brainwave activity. All that you think, you feel, is all just data. Data that in large patterns can be decoded using artificial intelligence. And that means they already have the technology to do this. It reminds you of this movie, Tom Cruise Minority Report. And I feel that most of the movies we watched over time, science fiction movies, are becoming a reality thanks to technology. That and everything that you thought that would never happen is starting to happen. Breaking CDC to begin tracking people who refuse to get a COVID vaccine. Here in the United States, I don't know where a lot of people get their thoughts from. You'll tell somebody, listen, they want to start tracking you if you didn't get the vax. The first thing they say, that could happen in some other country. It's never going to happen here in the United States because our government is never going to let that happen. What? The same government that's working against you. People need to wake up. 84.5% of Americans are now anti vaxxers, according to the contemporary definition. Now, I know a lot of people that got the first shot. They were scared, so they went out and got it. I never got it because they were pushing it way too hard. I said, if they're pushing something this hard, there's something wrong with it. But a lot of people say, I got the first shot, then I got the booster, but I never went back for anything else. And less people are doing this. They're losing interest in the vaccine. When fascism becomes fashionable, literally, the World Economic Forum is promoting digital IDs and digital passports on clothing. It's always been about control. Now, a lot of people would be okay with this because it's something that's not inside of them. But I feel they want to get you used to having this digital ID by putting it on clothes. Later, they'll say, well, now we need you to go ahead and put this under your skin. It's the same thing. It's just that we want you to have it under your skin. Let me tell you something. If they're pushing digital IDs this hard, it's not good for you. Always remember that. Once we allow the digital ID, it's all over. This has to be our line in the sand because it's our individual freedom is hanging by a thread. And transhumanism, they're selling that in movies as well. Look at In Time, Elysium, Iron Man, Lucy. The list goes on and on. Whenever you want to see their agenda or the things they want for you, just go watch the latest sci fi movie. Because most of the time, what you see in that movie will eventually happen. The latest movie I watched was Megan. If you want to see about artificial intelligence, check out that movie. I'm not going to say anything about it because I don't want to spoil it for any of you. but definitely take a look at it. COVID-19 Roadmap, the 12-step plan to create a totalitarian new normal, create a problem such as COVID, provoke a terrified reaction. You know how many people were scared around COVID, especially early on? And then the vax came. Everybody had to go out and get it. Then later, we started getting the true data around the vax. Impose lockdowns. We've all been through those. Exaggerate cases. I remember the news always pushing the cases on a daily basis, and it would always show more and more cases, and people stayed scared. They stayed distracted. Impose face mask, impose contact tracing, impose health passports, impose 5G microwave networks, impose mandatory vaccines, impose a cashless economy. That's coming. And I feel we are getting closer and closer to a cashless society because of COVID to begin with. Impose human nanochip implants. At some point, they're definitely going to push ahead with that as well. I'm never getting it. The new normal, a totalitarian tyranny. And this whole plan is drawn up by a whole bunch of hypocritical old people that are totally evil and sold their soul a long time ago. You know, everything that they do, they don't want me or you to do in any way. Klaus Schwab brags about how the World Economic Forum has penetrated governments around the world with its Young Global Leaders program, basically building a virtual one world government that he controls. You know, every video I do about the World Economic Forum, people say that's not going to happen. The World Economic Forum has no power. Who needs power when you're controlling all the leaders of the world? I mean, you take a look at the people on this list. You see how Canada's making out right now. You see how the UK's making out right now. They're pushing forward with Agenda 2030. It's not hard to see it. All you have to do is look at a few news articles and put it together. Everything is right in front of us right now. World Economic Forums officially sees more blockchain adoption in 2023. Now, I always said it, 2023 is going to be a huge year for crypto, in my opinion, especially for XRP holders. I believe that adoption is going to start soon as Ripple wins the case against the SEC. I believe that's going to be when crypto really starts to take off because that regulatory clarity is very important. The World Economic Forum discussion panel discussing the upcoming token economy, which will include carbon credits, housing, electricity, government bonds, foreign exchange, and other real world assets that will be traded on the blockchain. I believe the blockchain was part of the reason why all of this is moving very quick now. The technology's there to do it. You know, people always say, well, why weren't they pushing this agenda, back in the 80s and the 90s? They were, but they didn't have the technology to make it a reality. The technology is here. Me and you invest in that technology because we want to enrich ourselves before all of this happens. It's very important to be rich when 2030, when CBDCs roll out. You want to have money. Digital IDs and social credit score. Your vaccine record is just one facet of your blockchain biometric digital ID that the architects of the Great Reset want to access. The World Economic Forum has an ambitious plan to create a digital ID for more than 1 billion people worldwide that don't have one. You see inclusion, choice, open, privacy, extensible, control, trust, interoperable, urgency, societal. This is back in 2021. That's when this was talked about. We have moved very fast since 2021. Everything around technology seems to be moving at the speed of light. Registering the world's population is a goal shared by the UN and also the World Economic Forum. Their proposed an app would enable users to link up with smart cities, healthcare and financial services, travel and shopping providers, and government departments. Again, being talked about back in 2021. Now we're starting to see these ideas being implemented. Smart cities are being talked about quite a bit. Healthcare tied into your digital ID is now being talked about as well by some companies. Blockchain and crypto bring increased liquidity and scale to carbon markets while driving fairer prices and increasing revenue shares for suppliers. Now, this comes directly from Ripple. Races are meant to be won, and meeting the Paris Climate Accord goal of keeping global warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius or below is the must win race of our lifetimes. This means reducing emissions, protecting the world's natural carbon sinks, and removing carbon from the atmosphere now. That's why close to 4,000 entities, including Ripple, have signed net zero pledges, with more industry lining up behind climate change goals. A range of promising new technologies are putting the finish line increasingly within our reach. The reason Ripple, I believe, got on board with this, it's about the money more than anything. But carbon credits are what's going to price us out of our homes, price us out of travel in the future. That's why you have to have money in the future so you could buy carbon offsets, so you could have carbon credits to do the things you want to do. Because everything is pushing in that direction. The reason I mention it so much is I want to keep it fresh in your mind because you got to have a goal. You got to say, I'm going to enrich myself so I could afford carbon credits in the future so my life doesn't have to change. I feel if you're poor, you're going to be on the universal monthly income and you're going to be tied to a digital ID and you're not going to have carbon credits to do anything that you want to do. It's all going to come down to money. That's why I always tell you, we're investing in the technology of the future. We need to continue holding it so it can enrich us or so it can enrich all of us in the future. With that said, I'm going to wrap up today's video. I want to thank you all for watching. I appreciate all of you watching my videos. Sometimes I like to just keep people aware of what's going on with the World Economic Forum. People that are asleep might watch one of my videos and wake up to what's going on around them. And that's important to me because people outside of crypto, I always try to tell them, you got to pay attention. If you have massive amounts of money in the bank, at some point a bail-in can happen. I try to teach people what's coming because we can see what's coming. It's laid out right there for us. But with that said, have a great night. We'll see you in the next one.